All right, let's get right into it because the market is absolutely buzzing today. We've got this massive global rally happening, and it's pretty much all being driven by one big idea. And as if that wasn't enough, there's a huge showdown brewing in the tech world that could seriously shake up one of the industry's biggest players. So let's start with the big one, the question that's really fueling all of this action. After a whole bunch of chatter from Fed officials, the market seems to have totally made up its mind. But just how certain are we talking? Well, wow. This number pretty much tells the whole story. If we look at the data from the futures market, which is basically where traders place their bets on where interest rates are going to go, it's showing an almost 90% chance of a rate cut from the Federal Reserve in December. That is an incredibly confident bet. And that confidence isn't just some abstract idea, right? It's having a huge impact, a real ripple effect across markets all over the world. So let's take a peek at how everything is reacting to this wave of optimism. Just look at these numbers from the last session in the US. They are incredible. The S&P 500 jumped 1.6%, but the real story is the tech-heavy NASDAQ, up a massive 3.6%. That's its best day in about 6 months. And all this rate cut talk is pushing the dollar down a bit, which is why we're seeing the euro climb up to 115. Okay, but it's not just the raw numbers. For anyone who follows the technicals, the charts, this is where it gets really interesting. This is a huge signal. The S&P 500 didn't just nudge up against its 100-day moving average. It blew right past it. For traders, that's often seen as a really strong bullish sign that this momentum might have legs. But let's shift gears a bit. We're going to move from that huge macro picture and zoom right into what might be the biggest corporate drama playing out today, a potential earthquake in the world of AI chips. So this whole thing boils down to a battle between two tiny but incredibly powerful pieces of tech. On one side, you've got NVIDIA's GPUs. They are the undisputed king. They power pretty much everything in AI. And on the other side, you've got Alphabet's custom-made TPUs, which they built just for their own AI models like Gemini. For a long, long time, this wasn't even a contest. But that might be changing. And this quote, you're seeing variations of this everywhere in the news commentary. It just perfectly sums up the shockwaves. A new report has just completely lit a fire under the speculation that NVIDIA's seemingly unstoppable position might finally have a real challenger. So here's the bombshell. A report is claiming that Meta, Facebook's parent company, is in talks to spend billions on Alphabet's TPUs. Now, why is this such a big deal? Well, if a heavyweight like Meta actually commits to a non-NVIDIA chip, it basically proves it's a real alternative. And the market's reaction was instant. NVIDIA stock dipped while Alphabet shot up over 6%. This is way bigger than just one day's stock moves. It could signal a whole new era of competition in the AI chip space. Okay, leaving the corporate world for a moment, let's talk about what's happening on the world stage, because high-level diplomacy is also really moving the needle this morning. And it's all centered on two very important phone calls. It all kicked off with this really closely watched call between the leaders of the US and China. And President Trump's first take on it, well, it was characteristically upbeat, and that definitely set a positive tone for the markets. Of course, they talked about the big stuff, trade, Ukraine, and yes, the very critical issue of Taiwan. But the real story, the part that analysts are digging into, is the nuance. The official statement from China really put a heavy focus on Taiwan, while the US summary didn't mention it at all. That just shows you how sensitive this all is, even while they're agreeing to meet again in Beijing. And then, in what you can only call a classic diplomatic balancing act, shortly after speaking with President Xi, President Trump gets on the phone with Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi. This move to immediately reconnect with a key ally like Japan, right after talking to a strategic competitor, it just perfectly illustrates the tightrope Washington is walking. Okay, so we've got a market running hot on these rate cut hopes, a tech giant being challenged, and geopolitical chess moves. What does this all mean for us going forward? Well, honestly, it all comes down to what the data tells us next. Right, looking at the calendar from investing.com, we've got two huge pieces of US data coming out today. First up is retail sales from September, which will give us a really good look at how the average consumer is doing. And we're also getting producer prices, which is a great way to see what's happening with inflation before it even hits the stores. And this really sets up the key question for the next few hours, doesn't it? This whole rally is built on a story, an expectation of a slowing economy and cooling inflation. But what happens if today's data, the actual facts, tell a different story? Is that 90% conviction going to hold up? Or are we about to see things get shaken up all over again? We'll be watching. This video is automatically generated by NotebookLM, an AI-powered tool. The reference sources used in this summary are listed in the video description. As this content is AI-generated, there may be errors in proper names, pronunciation, or unnatural speech. This video does not provide investment or trading advice. Please make investment decisions at your own discretion. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.